everyone. Hope you're doing well. Some big West Ham transfer news this week. Some good, some not so good. We're here to get the latest from our friend Dharmesh from Sky Sports. Dharmesh, how you doing?
I'm very well. Busy week, isn't it?
Yes, there's plenty to talk about today, isn't there? Let's just get straight into it because there's so much to get through. Let's start with the big one, the big striker that is, and the big transfer news, Gianluca Scamacca. What's the latest going on there?
Yeah, this one's starting to accelerate by the sounds of it because what I'm told today is that West Ham and Sassuolo are now in advanced talks over the signing of Gianluca Scamacca, and the fee we believe to be is around £30 million plus add-ons. So the initial fee will be around £30 million. And then, I mean, look, everyone talks about add-ons, don't they? If say it goes up to £35 million and some people say, well, that's quite expensive. Well, if West Ham end up paying £35 million for Scamacca, then I think they'll be quite happy because it means he would have achieved all of those add-ons and all those performance-related bonuses. So I think it will be... it looks like it's accelerating, that one. It's one that has been going on throughout the window. You know, at Sky Sports News, we're always deciding which striker to West Ham are we going to start with, which one looks more likely. And it's been flipping for the last 2 or 3 weeks. At first, it seemed like it was Broja. Then it seemed like it was Scamacca again. And then it was like, look, both haven't been ruled out. And while both haven't been ruled out now, it's likely to be one or the other at this stage. But the one that looks like it's going to happen more than the other one is Scamacca. So advanced negotiations between the clubs. And of course, there's still work to do on the deal, even if that part of it gets sorted, because the personal terms, medical, all of that will need to get done as well before he can be announced as a West Ham United player. But it looks like there's positive signs on that one.
Is there a willingness to sell from the Italian club, given that they had a friendly yesterday? He wasn't involved whatsoever. Is it fair to suggest he's been taken out of the squad in order to eliminate as much risk as possible to an injury so that the move can occur?
Yeah, you see that quite a lot, don't you? I mean, sometimes you see players playing in pre-season friendlies, and then that kind of gives an indication that maybe it's not as close as people think. But the fact that he has been left out would imply that this deal is at an advanced stage. And given the money that's being talked about, I'm sure Sassuolo or West Ham wouldn't want it to fall through at this stage. So it's big money as well for Sassuolo as well, remember. So us saying, you know, do they want to sell? In an ideal scenario, he's a fantastic player for them. 16 goals for them last season. I'm sure they wouldn't want to. But when a club like Sassuolo gets a bid that's worth £30 million initially, plus add-ons, then it's something that they're going to have to think about. There was, of course, that interest from PSG, wasn't there? And initially, the Sassuolo chief executive, Giovanni Carnevali, he said that PSG had bid 35 million euros plus add-ons, and West Ham had bid 40 million euros plus add-ons. And at the time, it was one of those where you thought, is he making these bids public because he wants to get PSG to raise their offer? Because I think at the time when PSG came in for Scamacca, I'm sure Scamacca was thinking on the one side, gosh, get to play with Neymar, Messi and Mbappe. But on the other side, it's the lure of first-team football as well. And with respect, I think he would be more likely to get more first-team football at West Ham United than he would at PSG. And I just wonder whether Sassuolo's motives back then were to raise the price. Now, since then, of course, there's been a development at PSG because they brought in Hugo Ekitike from Reims. And so the desire to bring in Scamacca kind of lowered down their priority list a little bit. So I think West Ham then, it was kind of full speed ahead if they wanted to do the deal. And I guess when it's just the one club that are after a player, as opposed to having to battle with someone like PSG, I think West Ham could take their time a little bit more and maybe do the deal on their terms. So even though we were hearing Sassuolo were looking for around 50 million euros, look, the deal looks like it's starting at around 30 million pounds. So a little bit less than what Sassuolo would have wanted at the start of the window, I think.
Are you saying that Scamacca, well, it was more appealed by playing with Mbappe and Neymar compared to Jared Bowen and Pablo Fornals? Are you suggesting that he's not looking forward to playing with Jared Bowen?
Your words, Gio, not mine.
Brilliant. Right, let's talk about the other one. Let's do our own flip-flop and go from the Italian one to the Albanian one, Armando Broja. I mean, we expected this to be possibly a West Ham player by now. At the start of the week, it was all promising that West Ham were in advanced negotiations with Chelsea, and this just sort of gives people a reminder how quickly it can stop. You know, we're in advanced negotiations with Scamacca while we were about with Broja at the start of the week. It seems to have just slowed down quite a lot. What's the latest going on there between West Ham and Chelsea?
I think maybe that might have come more from the Chelsea side as well, because it feels a little bit of upheaval happening at Chelsea just now, because, you know, with about 2 weeks to go until the season starts, they're still trying to get lots of business done. Now, if they are going for strikers or forward players and they're not managing to get these players in, then it would be probably unwise for them to release someone like Broja before they were to bring other players in. Now, it's not to say that the talks are over between the two clubs. My understanding is that West Ham United still are interested in Armando Broja. Now, like I said before, whether they can do both deals on a permanent basis, I don't know, because how much of that budget, if they were to do that, would that take away from other targets as well? Is there a possibility maybe they could do a loan for Broja and buy Scamacca? This is just me speculating, Gio. But look, they've had that long-standing interest in Broja. That it was there in the last transfer window as well. But initially, from this transfer window, I think Thomas Tuchel wanted to have a look at Broja. Now, what's happened since we heard about him wanting to have a look is he's gone on the pre-season tour as we expected him to. We expected him to play, but he, you know, you saw those images on social media with his foot in a protective cast. And then lo and behold, within 2 days, he was flying back to the UK. Now, one of two reasons. We take it on face value that he was going to come back and have proper treatment back at home, or there was a move in the offing and it would be easier to do the details of that move to West Ham United if he was back in the UK. Now, since then, obviously, Chelsea are still deciding, I think, whether what they're going to do with Broja. So I don't think the interest will have gone from West Ham United at all. Yes, they've had that bid on the table for a while now, £25 million, we're told, plus £5 million in add-ons. And they've also got this bid on the table with Sassuolo for Scamacca. And like I said, the Scamacca one looks like at this stage, and we've said it the other way around so many times in the last 2 weeks, but at this stage, that one looks the more likely to happen. And then who knows? We've still got, remember, people are always looking towards the first day of the season. So it's 5th of August, the first day of the season. But remember, there's still another 26 days to go, 27 days to go of the transfer window. So who's to say that Broja will be a Chelsea player at the start of the transfer window, at the start of the season, and may not be a Chelsea player by the end of the transfer window. So I think it's still one to keep an eye on. Yes, it has looked like it has gone a little bit quiet on that front. I wouldn't say definitively that it's completely off, though.
In regards to the Scamacca deal advancing pretty quickly in the last 24 hours, do you think it's because of the sort of the vibe they get from Chelsea in regards to Broja, or do you think it's a reaction to missing out on Jesse Lingard, or is it a combination of both, do you think?
You know what? People will call it that. People will look at the timing, won't they? And they will say, look, we need some good news for West Ham United following Jesse Lingard's decision to go to Nottingham Forest. So look, sometimes you can't control when a club is going to say, okay, we're going to look at this deal. Let's get back around the negotiating table and let's talk figures here. So I'm taking it on face value. It could just be a coincidence that this one has moved on so soon after the Jesse Lingard situation. But look, it doesn't hurt, does it? Because West Ham fans, a lot of them, I've seen quite a bit of mixed reaction on social media about the whole Jesse Lingard situation, if I'm being honest. Some are saying, look, why did West Ham not match the Nottingham Forest bid? Others are saying, look, it's good that West Ham didn't match that Nottingham Forest bid. So it's going to be split. And it'll be interesting to see what the reaction of the West Ham fans will be, because lo and behold, the fixture computer has done its worst again, hasn't it? Nottingham Forest's first home game of the season against West Ham United. So it'll be interesting to see what the away fans make of Jesse Lingard. And indeed, how the home fans respond to the West Ham fans as well. But look, I don't think necessarily it was a reaction to what had happened yesterday. It just so happens that they've been looking at Scamacca for a long while. The Broja one seemed to have quietened down a bit because of what's happening at Chelsea more than anything else. And so they wanted to move full speed ahead with Scamacca. And look, it's accelerated to the point of advanced negotiations today. So let's see what happens.
Right, parking the striker talk for the rest of the show, really, Dharmesh. But let's move to Filip Kostic, Serie A to Bundesliga. We've been strongly linked to him today, really. It's sort of blowing up today that West Ham have launched a bid for the Frankfurt player. What can you tell us about that?
Just let me reiterate again. In my rush to put it out on social media, I put left back, and then got quite a big response out of that. So I appreciate all of that. And I gave it the praying emoji with left wing back or left winger. So let's just call him an attacking left-sided player. So I think it has been a priority position along that left-hand side for David Moyes throughout this transfer window. We knew that they wanted to bring in someone who could play in that left wing-back area throughout the summer. And he's gone for experience, hasn't he? And it looks like if this one can come off, it would be quite a good deal. Eintracht Frankfurt are in a bit of a situation because as much as they'd want to dictate the terms on this deal with regard to price, West Ham United know that Kostic has entered the final year of his contract. And so maybe they'll try and bargain with that at the back of their mind, thinking we maybe not need to pay as much as we would have required to have paid had he had a few more years left on his contract. And David Moyes will know this player very, very well, as will you, Gio. I'm sure you're at both legs of the semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt, and he played 90 minutes in both legs. He also scored the two decisive goals that ended up knocking out Barcelona in the quarterfinals for Eintracht Frankfurt. So he's got a lot of pedigree, Serbia international as well. And I saw a stat earlier on Sky Sports News. I don't know whether you caught it, but since 2018, there was a list of players who had the most assists in the 5 top European leagues. Number 1 was Thomas Müller of Bayern Munich. Number 2 was Lionel Messi. And joint third on 44 were Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jadon Sancho, and Filip Kostic. And I think that stat says a lot. And I think it would, if West Ham can sign this player, I'm sure the fans will be very, very excited about what he could bring, particularly if you can bring in someone like Scamacca as well. I think West Ham fans are already dreaming about a Kostic assist and a Scamacca goal.
They've got the same agent as well, haven't they? Kostic and Scamacca, which is, I don't know.
Interesting.
Interesting. That's a good word. I like that one. That keeps me safe, that does. That's like saying Kostic is a left attacking player. It's safe waters. I like safe waters. Yeah. The reason you would have got a little bit of blowback on wording him as a left back is because some fans, like myself, was a bit worried that this was the option to go after to play left back at West Ham, and it's not really something we have any evidence of. He's a left wing back for Frankfurt rather than a left back. Is there any talk of any left backs at West Ham are after? Any bids going in for any left backs that you're aware of?
No, look, there might be something going on in the background. At this stage, I've not heard of anything. I'll be honest with you, I've not heard on anything on that just now. The only ones I've been hearing about today are the two that we've been talking about in Kostic and in Scamacca, of course, as well up front.
Amadou Onana, you've been sort of leading the way on reporting in regards to Amadou Onana a couple of weekends ago. So pretty much 2 weeks to the day, we had our second bid rejected. We went in with a third one, and it feels like there's been radio silence from Lille. They've just gone, we'll just pretend there's no bid here.
At the moment, I know as much as you because I've been pursuing this one since that third bid has gone in, and we believe that third bid to have been around 38 million euros plus add-on. So not cheap, and obviously a player that West Ham United do want to bring in. Again, another priority position, central midfield that they wanted to strengthen during this transfer window. But everything that I've been trying to get out of various people on this is there's no movement on it at all. Now, whether that means Lille have decided, no, we're rejecting the bid, or Lille are still deciding whether to accept or reject the bid, or whether Lille are just waiting to see if any other suitors come in to maybe bump up the price. I don't know, because all of the information that I'm getting about this one at the moment is it is where it is. The bid is on the table, full stop.
For a bit of context for those who stick to West Ham only, this is similar to what Newcastle United had to put up with, wasn't it, with Lille when they were trying to get Sven Botman in. They had moments where negotiations just didn't really go anywhere. So it's sort of like in keeping with Lille's transfer negotiation style. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, look, if the price is right, Lille are a club who will do business. But I mean, they've made a bit of money. You always hear about French clubs having financial difficulties, and you always have Lille in that bracket where they always have to make big sales to like balance the books, as it were. But everyone that I've spoken to who deals in French football, we've had some on our Transfer Talk podcast as well, and they talk about the fact that because they've sold Sven Botman and a couple of others, they're actually okay at the moment financially. And so with regard to Onana and other players, there's another player, Jonathan David, who's been linked with a move away as well, the Canadian international striker. It's a case at the moment for once, and it doesn't happen often, that Lille are under no pressure to sell these players at this stage because they've got the finances in check with the other sales that they've made, particularly with Sven Botman to Newcastle. So it still can be a case where they would do business, because when you're talking big money like this, Lille are a business as well, and they have to think, are we going to get this kind of money again? Is there going to be a Premier League team who's got this money, who's going to be coming in for Onana with a bid like that? Because if he does play well, but then other Premier League clubs who would be able to afford that kind of money may think, right, we're going to move on. There are other players that we can look at, and they might fill that position that they want to fill, and would leave Onana having to go somewhere else. And Lille may be thinking, we're not going to get as much money as we would have had we sold to West Ham. So as I say, look, I know the season is fast approaching, but the window still has a little bit of time to run. So I'll keep making those calls and see if I can get anything else on what Lille are planning to do with Onana and what they've done with this bid that's gone in from West Ham United.
Possibly a little bit of social media talk, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway, just to see if you've heard anything. And that was that Liverpool were sort of monitoring the situation with Amadou Onana, because they obviously need a centre midfielder. But I think the vibe from Anfield is they're just going to wait till next summer and ideally go after Jude Bellingham. However, we've seen with Liverpool in the past, in January with Luis Diaz, they were monitoring Luis Diaz, but Tottenham made a move, so they had to go and get him perhaps a little bit sooner than they would have liked. So have you heard anything with Liverpool with the Onana, or do you think it's a little bit of social media talk?
No, I mean, look, I see what you see sometimes in the press and on social media. Liverpool, there are a couple of other clubs as well. Arsenal as well were looking at Onana, if you believe everything that you read. The only information that I got was this concrete bid that had gone in from West Ham United. And sometimes, you know what? I mean, I get phone calls as well from agents who will say, we've got this club interested in this player. And that's sometimes how it works, because that club might have said, yeah, we're happy for that interest to be out there, simply because it creates that bidding war situation, doesn't it? With a few clubs involved with a certain player, so that if West Ham United go in with the bid, Lille will turn around and say, well, yeah, that's a good bid, but, you know, you better hurry up or raise that bid because we've got X, X, and X interested in the player as well. So it might be true. It might be a little bit of mischief making from representatives and clubs as well, because they want to get the best deal for that player.
More to come on Amadou Onana for sure. Now we're going to quickly talk about a West Ham United player, and that is Issa Diop. A couple of weeks ago, he was expected to join Fulham. I thought he was going to go to Craven Cottage, but it went a little bit quiet, and then there's been an injury to Neif Aguerd. And what's the latest on Diop? Does he look set to remain at West Ham for the foreseeable future?
So my reading of this situation is this, that Fulham definitely interested, definitely in talks with West Ham United, but there was a gap in valuation. I think West Ham United were looking for close to £20 million for Issa Diop, whereas Fulham, I think what they were prepared to pay initially was around £12 million plus performance-related add-ons. And so those talks would have continued, because you see two clubs in any transfer situation have their prices, and then, you know, if there's a deal to be done, normally they'd meet in the middle. But as you mentioned, I mean, it's a really bad timing for the player and for Nayef Agard especially. I mean, to get an injury in a pre-season game, and it looked like a pretty bad one as well. So the X-ray showed no break, so that's one relief. They're just waiting for the bruising to go down to do that scan properly to find out if it's ligament damage and how bad that ligament damage is. So while they're finding that out, and while they're finding out how long and how severe that injury is, it doesn't make sense for West Ham United to discuss a deal with Issa Diop, simply because he might be required. And like, I'm not talking about as a reserve, but maybe even just to walk straight into the team, as far as West Ham United are concerned. If it is a short-term injury, and as I say, you know, there's still plenty of time in this window, then maybe towards the end of the window, we may still get a situation where they might be able to do a deal. But if that injury is going to keep Agard out of games once the season starts and into September, look, I've got no information on that at the moment, then this one might be revisited again in January. But if you think about it, if you're from Fulham's perspective, and of course from West Ham's perspective as well, it's a weird season, isn't it? Because yes, you may start the season with Diop, and there still might be a possibility come before the beginning of September that a deal could be done. And if it doesn't happen, there's about 2.5 months of football after the window closes, and then it's the World Cup. And by the time they come back from the World Cup and restart their matches, you're about a week away from the January transfer window opening. So it's all been constrained a little bit here. So it's going to be weird, not just for the players, but for people like us as well when we're trying to chase transfers. Because once we say if Diop doesn't go in this transfer window, it's not long again before we potentially could be talking about a move for Issa Diop as well. But that will all depend on Agard's fitness, how Diop plays if he was to get into the team, if Agard is not fit, and then also the injury situation with West Ham United as well, because you just can't predict the future.
Sorry to interrupt my chat with Dharmesh, but don't worry, plenty more transfer news coming up. I know what you're all thinking right now. Here he goes, the way promote OneFootball or Manscaped. You'd be wrong. A couple of months ago, I interviewed Fabrizio Romano on this channel. In that video, I said, in order to keep making these types of videos, these type of interviews, we need a little bit of sponsorship. So if anyone was keen to sponsor these interviews, please get in touch. One of our viewers did. He said, I'd like to help towards these interviews. I enjoy them, so go make them happen. So obviously I said, well, what do you want in return? What can we promote for you? And he said, well, promote Scotland. He'd recently been on a small vacation to Scotland, thoroughly enjoyed it and what Scotland had to offer, and he was pleasantly surprised with some of the hidden gems. So he said, being a Scotsman, maybe you could promote what beauty lies north of Hadrian's border. So first of all, a massive thank you to him, because without him, you would not have this interview you are currently watching. And second of all, I'm going to promote two things today. Both are around sort of water, if you like. So if you're into scenery, these are the places for you to go. First of all, I'd like to discuss Fairy Pools. They're out on the Isle of Skye. A beautiful, beautiful place. It's in the middle of nowhere, so you've got to be up for walking. And maybe don't mind getting wet if you want to make the most of this, because it involves stepping stones to get over all the little burns and streams. So all the burns and streams flow through the countryside of Scotland. Then they meet up and they crash over rocks, creating little waterfalls into fairy pools. The water is crystal clear. You can walk in it and you'll be able to see your feet clearly. It's like you're not even in water. But I'll warn you, whilst you can swim in it and walk in it, it's still Scotland. The water is still freezing at the best of times, but it's one of the most beautiful places that Scotland has to offer. The second place is Smoo Caves, right up in the north of Scotland. It's in the north of the Highlands. You think the Highlands are quite far away. This is the north of the Highlands. But again, a stunning natural feature for you to visit. It's a huge, huge sea cave. It's about 50 feet by 30 feet, naturally made by the seawater. In the cave you go. There is a tour on, so unlike the fairy pools where there's no events company there, you just walk across and see it for yourself. Up in Smoo Caves, there is an events company providing tours, gives you the little hard hat, so you can walk into the cave and get deeper into the cave as well. It's about half an hour long, the tour. But within the big cave, there's a smaller cave, and in that smaller cave, there is a freshwater waterfall as well. Another stunning place to go, very, very remote. It's a bit of a drive, it's a bit of a trek. It's right in the north of Scotland, but another beautiful place. So again, massive thank you to the person that got in touch that has funded this video. Without him, it wouldn't be possible. So there you go. 2 places that Scotland has to offer that you perhaps didn't hear about before you started listening to Dharmesh talking about West Ham transfer. You can keep this answer short and sweet because I suspect I know your answer. I can ask it in case anyone watching wants to know. There was also a lot of talk about West Ham potentially selling Nikola Vlasic, Saïd Benrahma, and Thomas Soucek. When you were last on, you were under the impression that we'd probably end up keeping all 3. You're turning out to be correct so far. Is that still the feeling that you're getting regarding those 3 players?
I've not heard anything to the contrary just now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Benrahma and Soucek started against Rangers.
Yeah.
And
Soucek came off bench.
And Vlasic was on the bench as well, wasn't he? So, as it stands, they're keeping these players. But then, as I keep saying, look, I know we keep looking towards the start of the season. And it was a couple of seasons ago where the clubs voted that the window would close just before the season started. But we're back to what it was before. And it has been for a couple of years now. And that we'll start the season and there'll still be 3-4 weeks until the window closes. So it depends as well, I guess, on what kind of recruitment West Ham United can do before the end of the transfer window. If they do fulfill what they wanted to do and bring in a minimum of 6 players, remember, Aged's come in, Areola's come in, Flynn Downs has come in, then we're looking at Scamacca, Broja potentially, Kostic, who have I missed out? Anyone else? Onana potentially. What would that do to the squad? Would that be a situation where West Ham United would have to take a step back and think, we need to streamline the squad now? Which would also point to the fact, I think, I know you wanted a short answer on this, but I think it would point to the fact that West Ham United would want to do any kind of incoming business sooner rather than later, simply because they'd want to see what size of squad they've got with enough time of the window, if it's too big, to maybe release some players.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying to get through this without mentioning Jesse Lingard, but it's difficult. Is there any alternatives? Assuming Kostic is for the left-back position, there's obviously fans will think, well, what attacking midfielder or winger are we going to bring in? Is there any names floating around, or is it quite quiet on that front as well?
It's quiet on that front, but if you go back to the start of the window, like I said, a minimum of 6 players. Now, that minimum of 6 players, when I was discussing this with various people, it didn't actually include Lingard. It was specific positions that they were looking for. And once we talked about those positions, it was, and there's the Jesse Lingard situation as well. So it was almost like, because he'd been at the club before, because he's a free agent, it's obvious West Ham United are going to want to look at Jesse Lingard because of what he's done at the club before. So it wasn't actually that's a position that we need to fill. It's just because it was Jesse Lingard, I think. Because I don't think you could say that in that particular position. I mean, West Ham are okay, would you say, at the moment, in that position?
I think we need another one. As a fan, I think Benrahma for now, they're a bit inconsistent. Vlasic had a really, we didn't see him at all at the end of the season. We were rotating heavily in games and he still didn't get on the pitch. So there's sort of question marks over him as well. Now, if all those players were in form, I think we'd be okay.
Yes.
But they're not really in form coming into the summer. So
no, that's fair enough. But if you talk about like numbers, then, you know, sometimes that can dictate what is a priority at a football club or not. So West Ham United's priority might not have been, we need to get Jesse Lingard before we do any other business, because I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, even though you've said the inconsistency of the other 3 players that you've mentioned there are bigger priorities at West Ham United in certain positions rather than the Jesse Lingard situation. So I think that's probably what West Ham's attitude was. And I think West Ham United wanted to sign Jesse Lingard. The information we were getting until a couple of weeks ago was that Jesse Lingard wanted to go to West Ham United as well. And West Ham United, like I've been saying in the past 24 hours, felt they made what was a fair and competitive offer for Jesse Lingard. And fair play to Nottingham Forest. They made a better offer for Jesse Lingard, and West Ham United decided, look, this is what we believe this deal would be worth. And Jesse, it was down to Jesse Lingard at the end of the day that this is his decision. You can talk about money, or you can talk about playing time, you can talk about position, you can talk about ambition, but this is Jesse Lingard's decision. So West Ham United felt they did what they felt was right in terms of an offer. Many people, many fans, Jesse Lingard's camp perhaps will disagree, but that's just one side of it, isn't it? And West Ham decided that was where they were going to go. And Forest decided, well, we're going to offer this and see what happens. And they've got him.
A couple of other players that sort of could be, again, social media whisperings that have been linked to West Ham this week. Just throw them at you quickly. Luke Thomas, Leicester City's left back. He's been linked to us today. You heard anything about that?
First I read of it was today as well. Sorry.
You better get on your old device after you've been on here, eh? When are you next on Transfer Talk? Are you on tonight? Is it tonight the transfer show's on?
No, so the transfer shows start again properly on August the 1st. So it'll be Monday week. I'm heading into Sky Sports News for a presenting shift, actually, on the graveyard shift. So I'll be in at 7 and I think I'm on air at 10. And it'll be on right the way through till 7 in the morning.
Well, you better be finding out about Luke Thomas before 10 p.m. then, won't you?
All right, mate.
And Dwight McNeil. We were linked to him briefly during the week as well.
Yeah, this one I've had conflicting reports about. I heard he was on a list of players, not necessarily one of the priority names on that list, but he was on the list. Someone that they looked at, whether they'd had talks. A colleague of mine believed that there had been talks between West Ham United and Burnley. The information that I was getting was that wasn't the case. But as I say, look, still plenty of time in this transfer window, plenty of twists and turns still, I think.
Anything else you'd like to mention? Any other players I'm not asked you about that you were thinking you've missed one there, Gio? Basically, save me.
I've written some down here. No, I think we've covered it.
Perfect.
We have covered it, yes.
Well, Dharmesh, thank you. As always, a pleasure. As always, you can follow Dharmesh on Twitter if you haven't done already. I'll put the link to his profile in the description below. He's very good with the West Ham news in the summer transfer window. So do give him a follow. But Dharmesh, thank you very much. Massively appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again.
If you've enjoyed this, do drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to Dharmesh Chat, and at some point, Dharmesh himself will catch you again soon.